Your Excellency, the First Lady of Uganda.
The First Lady.
The First Lady of Uganda.
I also recognize the invaluable efforts and support from Hipipo Foundation, the Youth Times News, my doctor, Anonda Kofi.
It is a great honor to stand before you as the board chairperson of Decent Africa.
I am honored to be here today at the Decent Africa Summit.
I'm pleased to participate in this inaugural Decent Africa Summit,
where we celebrate the vital role of women in shaping a future of health and education for every child. This year's theme reflects our commitment to decency, empowerment, and inclusion as pillars for Africa's transformation.
Ensuring that no one is left behind, that every child, regardless of their background, has access to the healthcare and education they deserve.
I therefore applaud the Decent Africa Foundation for championing the cause of cultural preservation and youth empowerment under the leadership of my sister Joyce Sebugwao.
Together, we can ensure that the value of respect, responsibility, and resilience are passed down, not just through generations, but through the heart of every child raised in our care.
Being here with remarkable leaders, innovators, and our young people gives me a lot of hope. I therefore applaud the Decent Africa Foundation for championing the cause of cultural preservation. May God bless the work of your hands.
So our panel theme is focusing on women leading the charge of a pandemic-free world. The objective of this discussion is to highlight the role of women leaders in Africa as they're playing different, driving innovation policies, combating pandemics, as well as the fact that they can ensure resilient systems for health and education are tackled and focused on in their different capacities. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce my panel to you this morning. We are going to be hearing from Sister Rose Nerima. I've had the privilege of seeing her in person finally, and I'm very excited for her role as an advocate for inclusive education, health access for children, especially children with special needs. We do have Mrs. Roselyn Bingi Kawiiso, Miss Bridget Nakakuyu Wamai is another champion, especially in financial sector. She's a champion of financial inclusion and healthcare resource mobilization, focusing on women and communities. Her work has been speaking for her. We can't wait for her to speak for her work. Now, from the African perspective, please note this is Decent Africa, so it's not just focusing on Uganda. In this room, we do have Ugandans and non-Ugandans, different African leaders. We do have Miss Emily Akuyo. There she comes. A round of applause for her. She's a member of the Pan-African Women's Organization, an advocate for women empowerment in leadership and health resilience. All right, so I'm going to allow my panelists a minute each to have a self-introduction. Let us know your line of work currently and your passion for women, especially focusing on health as well as education.
Good morning to all ladies and gentlemen present today. My name is Nabatanzi Madrine, an agro-inclusion expert working with Farmers Center, Chibuye.
My name is Emily Akuyo. I work for the Pan-African Women's Organization as executive assistant to the Secretary General of the Pan-African Women's Organization. I also am the former Deputy Executive Director of the National Women's Council. I'm soon assuming another role under National Women's Council, which has now been combined as a Special Interest Groups Secretariat, Ministry of Gender, and I'm going to be the head of the National Women's Council, Technical.
Congratulations to you and thanks.
It's a pleasure to be here. You look so beautiful, ladies. I am Nakakuyu Bridget Wamai, the head of finance at Hipipo. I'm here to represent the Include Everyone program that focuses on women, but also makes sure that the people in marginalized populations are not left behind. Thank you.
My name is President Kawiiso. By the grace of President of Mothers Union, Namibia Diocese and State Region. I'm a mother, the grandmother. I'm a member of Interfaith, Uganda Interfaith. I'm a member of Religious Council, all under Church of Uganda. I'm happy to be here with you. You are welcome.
Thank you so much. And finally,
I'm Sister Rose Nerima. Profession, I'm a secondary teacher. I'm an administrator heading a secondary school. What brings me here, I headed Mbale School for the Deaf, the first woman to head Mbale School for the Deaf for 7 years, and the longest serving head teacher there. I mobilized and initiated a dual curriculum for the first time in this country, where the children with disability went through secondary education, at the same time went through vocational skilling, that by the time children with disability leave senior 4, they left with 2 certificates in DIT and Uganda Certificate of Education. Thank you.
all right. So we'll start with you, Sister Nerima. What innovative strategies have you actually been implementing in your 7-year leadership over the school with the children with special needs that have actually continued to help them access good quality education?
Thank you so much, Priscilla. First of all, let me appreciate the NRM government that for over the decades has recognized the education for all children in this country. Many of us, we have stories, those who witnessed one of the leaders of this nation gathered persons with disabilities and threw them in the River Nile. So for a long time, many parents kept off their children from being accessible and to access services in this country. So we want to thank the Fountain of Honor and Mama Janet for the struggle they have put across. Inclusion as a policy for special needs learners is in the process, presented in the Parliament of Uganda. It's my prayer and everybody's prayer that this policy is worked on and implemented to support the persons with disability. Back to the point, most people living with disabilities are less privileged persons who often have been neglected or abused because society, culture, and customs dictate so. I think we are all common with the word, when they see somebody with a disability, quickly what comes in, Kasiru. That is one of the most disturbing words when I hear it. Because a child being disabled does not mean this child or this person cannot access every opportunity that any Ugandan can have. When I went to Mbale School for the Deaf, I found 46 children who are deaf. There was inclusion there. I had to work a strategy on how the enrollment of children with disability can increase. I want to tell you that by last year, we had registered 629 learners with disabilities across the 2 wings. I told you, I introduced the vocational wing in 2018. And that time the school was getting 43 million grant from government. It meant the vocational wing did not have any grant, but I had to struggle to see that the secondary wing, the grant that came to support the children in the secondary wing, could support the students in the vocational wing. It came along with the staffing, which grew big. At the end of the day, the school had 121 staff members, including sign language interpreters who are not coded by public service up to today. Then, when I went there, the school had received heavy industrial machines of German origin in 2012, long back before I went there. I was the third head teacher to get those machines unused and assembled. I had to study the model of a dual curriculum, skilling a nation, on my own. And in 2018, I had to engage the UPDF because I knew they have highly trained soldiers who were just in the barracks doing nothing. Thank God, in the Tares Sita of 2018, I was assigned a team of the military men who came well-skilled and we assembled the machines. Mbale School for the Deaf became the first school piloting institution to implement what we call a dual curriculum. And I implemented 13 courses, and the school skyrocketed, it never looked back. The grant, through the mobilization, many children started coming in. And the challenge, which I will look at later, most of the children from the background, their families, are not very supportive. You could imagine how a child carries a polythene paper because the friend has told him or her that let's go to school, sister will receive you. Some of them had never been to school. We had to introduce them to skills. Others had never learned sign language. We had to introduce them to sign language for easy communication. Yeah.
Applause for her. Now, of course, Sister has mentioned what she has mentioned, but it has taken not just effort and a passion and willingness. There's been investments that have had to be done in that direction. And we do know that, of course, agriculture is the backbone of our economy as Uganda. Currently, we're also pushing for ICT to equally also become a backbone. Ministry of National Guidance and ICT has released the ICT National Roadmap. And it begs the question to my next panelists, and this is Evelyn and Adrian. But I'll start with Bridget. Bridget, we need to have a conversation around financial inclusion if we are going to ensure that the works of Sister Nerima are fruitful and beneficial to all people with disabilities across Uganda. And so what are some of those initiatives that Hipipo has been championing over the course of time to support women and vulnerable groups, especially during health crisis?
Thank you very much, Ms. Regina. Hipipo, with the Include Everyone program for the last 20 years, we have been at the forefront of inclusive, secure, inclusive financial payment systems. If it is a battle, I think we are winning. We have started, and the 20 years are still counting. We hope to get bigger to make sure the people, especially women and vulnerable groups, can access payments easily and in a self-secure way. We have created a digital literacy and financial toolkit that is being translated in a number of languages to make sure that the people from all over the world, focusing on starting with Africa, to say we are starting with Africa, most especially Uganda, to make sure everyone, me, Agishu, someone who is from the West, can read, the blind can access the toolkit. We're hoping for collaboration from people. I'm sure we're going to have a conversation with Sister to make sure people with disabilities are catered for as well. We are the biggest advocates for policy change. We have an honor for our CEO, who is also the chairperson of Inclusive Finance Working Group at Bank of Uganda, that is advocating for inclusive financial payments. He is the chairperson. What better way to have someone to advocate for our rights than a feminist? He is the biggest feminist I know. Sometimes we make fun about it at work, like there's no way a man can be more feminine than you or can advocate for women in places of power, in places of leadership like he does. So it's an honor that we have people like that on the table discussing issues that are affecting women and marginalized groups. We also provide capacity building. We do workshop. We've done the summit, Women in FinTech Summit and Hackathon that happens every year. We don't only provide mentorship that is basically just finance, but it's a holistic training and industrial skilling. We don't want to leave anyone behind.
How important are they for women to adopt them in order to have a pandemic response and recovery for a better future?
The use of technology itself puts women in a position that is central. We're not just looking at what we are doing during the pandemic, but we are positioning women to be the center of building back communities. The effects of COVID are still being realized up to now. We were underprepared, but we made it through. But can we be better prepared? So with the use of technology, we have access to digital services. You can make payments for health-related expenses using your phone at the comfort of your bed. If my mother gets sick, I know I can contact a doctor any day, anytime, and she can be accessed. She doesn't have to go to the hospital to access these services. We have initiatives like My Doctor that is championing telemedicine and creating solutions that the COVID pandemic left behind. If we forefront solutions like these that make it easy to access medical assistance, make payments, also receive alerts in real time, you're receiving updates about your health, about the people you care about, you're even able to track progress online. Even when you're not in the country, you don't need to be present. You don't need to be present for you to receive the service. Technology, the use of technology itself is making payments easy and affordable. At the comfort of your phone, you can access credit for health-related expenses. We have platforms like Clinic Pesa that is offering microloans and saving platforms for you to access medicine. You start small, you put money aside, especially for people that don't have insurance. You don't have to wait to have a medical emergency for you to have a safety bag to reach out to every time you want to spend on medicine, you want to buy medicine, you want to focus on health. There are provisions for it.
All right, thank you so much, Bridget. Please reach out to her and have a better understanding of some of the products and services she has mentioned, because the uptake of it can help us on an individual level and a group level. As we do continue on, you have been talking about collaborations in order to achieve what you're talking about. And I know that Adrian equally has had to pick up on the tool of collaboration in the agribusiness world in order to thrive. How has collaboration enabled you in particular to actually get to where you are at focusing on the fact that you had been affected by the pandemic, COVID-19 being the worldwide, but we have other pandemics that we have faced. HIV is still with us. We've first gone through Ebola. Currently, we're going through Mpox, and yet still you have to do business.
Well, agriculture as a sector provides a platform for training of women and children on health-related practices and proper hygiene to improve lives of children and women or the country and communities at large. Well, with Farmers Center, where I come from, where I represent, it is a woman-led agribusiness that provides a training every last Saturday of every month, training to community people, but particularly women, about the importance of growing our foods in our homesteads small spaces, we are impacting women to grow kitchen gardens to make sure their livelihoods get better. Yes, and with Farmers Center Chibuye, we have introduced an annual women's pack for sanitary napkins that includes every woman, and we call upon everyone to reach out to Farmers Center Chibuye to get an annual pack that will sort women red days throughout the year. Thank you.
Christmas is around the corner, so definitely that comes in handy. But thank you so much, Adrian. Turning to another religious leader, in your capacity, Mrs. Roselyn Bingi, you are working with women every single day. This is daily bread for you. Tell us or share with us some of those success stories that you have actually witnessed as a woman leader that are measurable to health improvement during pandemics, focusedly.
I wish to thank the congregation who are present. I represent Mothers Union, Central Region, and in particular Nerima Diocese. And the Mothers Union has been very, very key in the success stories of the pandemic, more especially during that time of COVID-19. We remember very, very well that our girls were abused, and they were abused by the people who were inside the house. You remember everybody was in the lockdown, were not going out, people are not working, and I'm sorry to say, the fathers of our kids, they misused the girls. There was one instance in Natete whereby, ladies, I want to warn you, because the ladies, most of the times, they want to pack their things and go and leave their daughters behind. And that was a bad thing at that particular time. The father started using the girl, and in that instance, the girl became pregnant. And when the mother came back, the girl could not talk about it because, you know, the girls are always reserved. And this, I want to warn the parents. We should try as much as possible to open up with our children. This girl could not tell the mom that she was pregnant. And the father was telling her that if you say it, be killed. So as in the middle of a fix, there was one of our Mothers Union members who came to know about that. So worked up as Mothers Union. We had to meet the family. And good enough, there was a safe home in Natete there called Ruminant Generation. At that time, they were keeping our girls safe. We were able to remove the girl from the family, and we took her to the safe shelter in Ruminant. She was taken care of, meanwhile, as the family was trying to sort out ourselves. And one of our objectives, number 5, is to help the families which have gone diversity. So we always help them. We try to talk to them. We try to bring the family together up again. And meanwhile, the girl was going through that. She gave birth to a baby bouncing boy. And this family, they was also sorting out themselves. But that was a story to tell. But what I can tell you now, the girl graduated. She went back to school. She graduated. She's now working. And the parents have reunited with the family. That is a story to tell around that pandemic of 2019.
Wow. That's one story, and I know that there are many because this is what you do on a daily basis. But it begs the question then, as a faith-based organization, how exactly are you positioning yourselves to play an educative role for our children, our families, in ensuring that there's attention that is paid critically to their health, critically to their education, if we are going to realize a pandemic-free future?
As Mothers Union, we normally have a work plan for the whole country, that is the whole province, because we are we are organized in an program that we start with our province. Then from the province, we go to the regions. Like the region I head now is the Central Region, which includes 7 dioceses. And then from the regions, we go to the dioceses. And the dioceses go down to archdeaconries, sub-parish, and parish. So when we are trying to communicate our information, it normally goes through those channels, and we make sure it reaches the families. Like this year, what we did as a province of Church of Uganda, we carried out MDD, and it was on the book of Romans 12, 1-2. It was about that not confronting to the standards of this world. You know, in this world of today, most of us, we are being taken up by the world.
Okay.
We are living alone, go the things, and we do the things as they do it in the world. And as you are hearing most of these days, we call the children of this world, the children of today. What's wrong with the children of today? And I keep on telling the ladies that if you are talking of the children of today, that means they are parents of today. So we should change what went wrong.
So before we speak of children, we must speak to the parents.
Yeah.
We must streamline the parents.
Yeah, and
we
that's
must
what we do.
them.
Yes, and that's what we do. All these women you see here, Mothers Union, not only Mothers Union, we always carry out health camps in conjunction with Mengo Hospital and Uganda Protestant Bureau. They help us to do such arrangement because as Mothers Union, we fund ourselves through membership. We don't have funders. By the way, if they could be funders here at Mothers Union, we'd be doing a lot of good work.
But the fact that you have done this work, self-funding, Mothers Union, clap for yourselves. Let's clap for these ladies. Self-funding, and you're impacting communities like that as a faith-based organization. We do commend you. Let me turn to another leader. Now, this one is a global leader and African continent leader with the African Women's, Pan-African Women's Organization. And we want to hear from you, Miss Emily Akuyo. As an African leader, you have worked with different governments, interacted with different governmental leaders, and it begs the question, on the part of collaboration, how can we as women present a unified front to lead and charge for a pandemic-free future?
Allow me to introduce the Pan-African Women's Organization. The Pan-African Women's Organization, as you have mentioned, is a continental organization, but of course works around the continent and globally for African women elsewhere, and also in the diaspora. It works as enhancing patriotic and Pan-African ideology in the spirit of the true African unity and solidarity for total development of Africa. When did the organization start? Pan-African Organization is actually one of the oldest women's movement organization in Africa, and also joining the rest of the women in the world. It was formed in 1962. It was launched in Addis Ababa by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the then president of Tanzania. And of course, it was formed when the women recognized that there was a gap. And so it was done to contribute, to recognize the contribution of visionary African women and what they were doing in the continent. They realized the need to unite the sisters from all African countries so that they can play their parts in different walks of life. These women built closer and closer relationships, shared experiences, losses, and gains, and victories, and they struggled for independence besides their counterparts. So it's the oldest. And the most significant part is that a Pan-African Women's Organization is the one that was able to inspire the men to form the organization of the African Union, the OAU. It's under revival because before, when the men were put on the seat, now they sat there and forgot the women. So that's why most likely you have not been hearing while growing up about the Pan-African Women's Organization. You ask,
question is about collaboration, presenting a unified front as women for
Yeah,
a pandemic-free future.
so the Pan-African Women's Organization facilitates a women-led organization and give them the opportunity to serve fellow women. And this is one of the things that we really, this is one of the ways we really contribute in making women participate in and collaborate in controlling the pandemic. Power offices elsewhere made it a point to reach out to refugee communities during the pandemic, and specifically the Ugandan office, where the Secretary General sits, was very instrumental in reaching out to refugee communities that that were not living in the camps. And so this strategy was spread across Africa. And the women tried their best in making sure that the women were comfortable. In the same vein, to facilitate proper collaboration, we asked for strengthening of regional partnership. And this should be through establishing of Pan-African health councils, where women sit and discuss, and the women leaders are able to participate in health policy making processes, share best practices, and also respond to health crises. Women should also be able to foster collaboration between regional economic communities, like we have the ECOWAS, we have SADC, and the East African community. If women are brought together like this, they're able to work as a team and participate in the struggle. We should be also able to empower women leaders. Tracing the footprint, I also say that there is need to retrace the footprint of the women's movement. In the early 90s and probably the 80s and also 70s, there were strong women movements that had come. But because of ideology, many things have gone different ways. So there is need to trace the mission of the women's movement and bring them back on table. Through empowering them, there is need for identifying and training women leaders through their different places of work. They may be government organizations, they may be NGOs, and they should be trained in health, diplomacy, and crisis management. In the same vein, promoting women's representation in decision-making positions will be very helpful in ensuring that women hold key positions that help them participate directly in the policy-making processes in the whole of Africa. And as Pan-African Women's Organization, we are very committed to that. There is need to enhance capacity and capacity building and resource sharing within the African continent, especially within the women's movements and organizations. Through development of regional capacity building programs focusing on strengthening women's health systems, emergency preparedness, and response. There is also need to establish a regional resource sharing mechanism, a platform for sharing economic resources, expertise, and equipment to support pandemic response efforts. And of course, lastly, there is need to leverage technology and innovation, which is what she has explained, and I don't think I need to go further into that. But if women are helped to capture the environment, like now we even have, what we have is even worse. Now we have the AI, and women are still behind. So if the African governments could combine efforts to make women get empowered in this line, it would be beautiful. Then there is need to develop a digital platform for women. Now we are all here, and some of us are seeing each other for the first time. But also at the continental level, it's the same way. You see your friend today, and you meet probably at a conference. I'm sure most of you have attended international conferences.
And you next
and you
meet
at
and then Decent Africa Summit 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you never even get to meet. So there is need for that platform to promote that kind of collaboration. Then lastly, there is need to promote innovation and research, encourage research, and also share data. I have been disappointed severally if I want to make a presentation somewhere, and there is I need data about, let's say, child mother and in Uganda and also in any other part of Africa. You go to a women's organization site, and what you get there is a summary of the research. You don't get anything. They say if you need, now you need to apply for it. It takes 3 to 4 days to get that. So there is need for data sharing. Yeah, and then of course, lastly, to foster community engagement and participation, which is what the Pan-African Women's Organization really encouraging. Raising awareness and promotion of community engagement through education, educating communities about the pandemic, preparedness and response. And then to support community-led initiatives like the Mothers Union is saying. We always say support, support, but how does it happen? You know? So there is need to come together as African governments and do something about that. Yeah.
Okay, you have said support, support, and you're very right. As women, we say, let's support, but your friend, your colleague will have a business and they'll be posting their business every single day on their status. All you do is scroll, 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 scroll. You don't pull out that money to support their business. You don't pull out that effort to practically support their business. So Mothers Union, I hope you've heard, there's support here that is ready to stand and work with you. Be active on that. You have definitely mentioned about an enhanced environment or a collaborative environment. Let's talk about environments. There's a policy environment that needs to be addressed if we're really going to be having a pandemic preparedness and women at the forefront of pandemic preparedness. Bridget, turning to you, what are some of the policies or regulations that currently exist that do support digital inclusion or financial digital solutions that are on the market right now, if any? And if not, also, what are some of those that you feel we need to speak into or address or to the government in order for them to actually take them up, consider them, and maybe someday implement them, pass them as bills and acts to be able to support the work that is being talked about here?
The integration of financial inclusion in most of the services in Uganda, I believe, is a policy that is working for women. Nowadays, we don't have to rely on Kameza money to access funds to manage a home. You have money on your phone. You can call someone to send you money. It's easy. We've been given back the power that money was holding for us to manage our homes, for us to make decisions that are instant. Of course, there are still things that there's still change that needs to be done. The little strides that have been made now, we commend them, but there's more that we can do. She has been talking about collaboration. There has to be collaboration for fintechs, the government. There has to be an integration for all the people that are creating solutions for the health issues. There has to be support that needs to be given, and we need to share information. She talked about sharing information. The information that you have can be used by someone to access information that you also have. So let's share. Let's also have multi-first platforms. While we are sharing information, we can have a platform that she talked about where we integrate everything and bring everything together. I want to track my health. I want to be able to get resources on education. I want to be able to get funding. Let's put it all together.
All right, thank you so much. Sister Nerima, you are one that has had to force your way into some rooms so that you get the attention first and then the action next. And I know that with that experience, you've realized there's some loopholes on a national level that need to be addressed if we're going to be having a pandemic preparedness for a future led by women. What are some of those that we need to speak into?
Thank you very much, Regina. For us to journey through a free pandemic situation in Uganda, one, we should work on information. Already the system in the country indicates that many persons with disability, I'm going to lean more of the deaf and hard of hearing persons, they are suffering from missing of information. Because sign language is not a language that many Ugandans have embraced. So you find that children with disabilities, especially the deaf and hard of hearing, they are isolated in their own homes. They don't have somebody to communicate with. The sign language interpreters are not close to them. And so these children live in a world in their own selves, and there is a lot of suffering. Let me just give an incident. You find a parent has a child and is not able to communicate to this child here. Many of them are in rural areas where the source of power is not there. So it means they don't have TV, they cannot listen to the radios because of the hearing impairment. And so they lack counselors outside the families that can add value and meaning in their lives. And so many of them, they miss national services and also cannot participate in what government has organized for them. When they go to the police, we now have 2 police officers in this country who know sign language. They go to the hospital, it is the same challenge. They are taken to court and they are becoming lawlessness because they lack information. In this country, I'm the only secondary head teacher with sign language skills. I can fluently communicate with the deaf, sustain my communication. I don't need a sign language interpreter. I'm the only secondary head teacher who has done a postgraduate diploma in inclusive deaf education. This calls for all the people in this nation to go an extra mile because there is someone around you who needs that information. Many children with hearing impairment can go through education circle without even a teacher noticing that this child is deaf. I've talked about this, I've advocated for it, but sometimes I have crossed and stepped on the superior's toes.
Allow me to interrogate further. The amendments that are being reconsidered on the National Teachers Bill, is what you're talking about anywhere included in that?
It is included, but it is not efficient. You know, with Ugandans, we are good at talking. But when it comes to the reality of life living, people do not go an extra mile. That's why I'm saying that let it be a responsibility. You know, there are some values in life that we have to engage in, to put ourselves in. So what maybe I can conclude with in short is, what can we do? People should take on offices, not because of the papers we have acquired. When it comes to actual serving a person, it goes beyond the papers.
Okay.
We must marry the mind, the heart, and the hand.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.